another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Happy Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in. What's been new? David and I celebrated our 1-year anniversary. I know you guys are like, are you serious? Are you okay? Because every other day you guys are celebrating something. Look, I know it's confusing because we've had 12 weddings, no funerals yet, thankfully, but I feel like every day we're doing something different. Our life is a little complicated, okay? So technically we did get married 1 year ago on October 20th. We might have 3 different wedding dates to celebrate, but that makes life a little bit more interesting, right? It gives you something to look forward to. So that was cool. We're not big like gift people, you know, we just had a nice dinner. It was like 45 minutes total, which was great. Went to Crumble Cookies afterwards, ate my weight in cornbread cookies from Crumble, and like had the best time ever. So ideal Saturday. That and what else I'm dealing with, and I know a lot of you guys will relate, I'm going through a little bit of TikTok fatigue when it comes to the beauty TikToks that are going viral right now. I don't know if you guys did the eyebrow filter. I've been trying to get the eyebrow filter down for like 3 weeks. It wants me to shave off half of my eyebrow, which is like not going to happen, but I'm trying to get as close as possible. But it's like, that's been driving me crazy because every video I'm sitting there over analyzing my eyebrows. Y'all already know, if you have a bad eyebrow week, just forget about it. But now every time I open TikTok, they're talking about the contrast theory. You guys know what I'm talking about? The high contrast, low contrast, medium contrast. And I'm like, is this the deal now? Every time you open TikTok, there's going to be a different beauty standard that you have to strive for. I can't do it anymore. But I am wearing darker lipstick today than I normally do because technically, based on the filter, I'm a high contrast girly. So I can sit here and complain all that I want, but at the end of the day, I'm still contemplating shaving half of my eyebrows off and getting plump lipstick. She's easily influenced. Let's get into the pop 3. These are the 3 biggest headlines in reality TV and pop culture of the week. I do want to start with an honorable mention, and that is Southern Charm's Michael Kelcourse passed away on Tuesday. So sad. We all knew and loved Michael from his time on Southern Charm, Miss Pat's butler, just so funny, full of life, really a comedic relief. We loved the relationship between Miss Pat and Michael, even Whitney and Michael. He was just a little shining star on Southern Charm, taking Miss Pat to McDonald's. You know, he has been suffering some health issues the past couple of years, dealing with strokes. My dog is losing his mind in the background. I don't know if you can hear that as well. I've had my dog for a week and a half while my parents are in Florida. And like, it's been great. I love him very, very much. But there's been a few moments where he's just like a little hellion, Tasmanian devil. 5 seconds before we started the podcast, he about bit David's head off because he was trying to get a tissue out of his mouth. And every time we get mail, it's like World War III doggy version. Like, it's insanity. Anyways, rest in peace to Michael Kelcourse. So pop 3 biggest headlines. Let's start with this chicken fry split. Yes, you heard me right. Chicken fry split, Zach Bryan and Brianna chicken fry. This is the first time. I'm having a real hard time with this. Coming to grips with getting old. Because I know who these people are, but I don't actually like know who these people are. And for the first time, I'm like on TikTok being like, hey kids, can you explain to me the deal behind Zach Bryan and Brianna chicken fry? Because I don't understand it. But it broke the internet. So I know that Zach Bryan is a country music artist. I know that Brianna chicken fry works at Barstool. She's on a number of different podcasts. Apparently, people were really invested in their relationship, which I did not know. I did not know that people were invested in this Chicken Bryan relationship. But the word on the street is that Zach was allegedly on Raya. Those photos were plastered all over TikTok. It was like the high contrast theory, Zach Bryan Raya profile. That was my For You page this week, even though he was in a committed relationship with Bree. So then he gets on his Instagram and he writes this, honestly, in my opinion, weird statement. Like, you can tell that he does not have a PR team that is writing this statement because one of the weirdest statements I've ever read when it comes to a breakup. Of course, you already know. What am I going to say? Black background, white text. When you know, you know. It says, Brianna and me have broken up with each other, and I respect and love her with every ounce of my heart. She has loved me unconditionally for a very long time, and for that, I'll always thank her. I've had an incredibly hard year personally and struggled through some pretty severe things. I thought it would be beneficial for both of us to go our different ways. I'm not perfect, and I never will be. And he says he disappointed a bunch of people and he disappointed himself. So clearly something happened there. Then Brianna goes on her Instagram and what am I going to say? Black background, white text. She's like, I'm blindsided by this. I had no idea. We didn't know at that point what she was blindsided by. She just said, I feel blindsided, not ready to talk about it. I'll get out here and talk about it when I can because that's her brand, right? She is an open book. She has gotten where she is today because she's very outspoken and very opinionated. So then she drops this YouTube video. It's about 3 minutes. And at the beginning, she says, she's very upset, clearly very upset, sitting on her bathroom floor. And she says, I don't know when I'm going to post this. It's probably going to be a while. Well, it ended up being that day. I don't know if things just started to really, get out of hand quicker than she thought. So she just decided to put it out. But essentially she said, Zach broke up with me a day before he made this Instagram post. That is what blindsided me. I didn't know that he was going to post this on Instagram. I need some time. I loved him conditionally through stuff that I shouldn't have. And I need some time to heal in private. Now, she did ask for people to not make videos about it, which a lot of people, including myself, did. Here's my thing. And I went back and forth. I'm like, should I do a video about it? Should I not? In doing a recap video, I don't really see a difference in her doing a video and posting it on YouTube and TikTokers doing a recap video, because if people aren't going to get there and watch her YouTube, then that's another way to relay the message, right? I also just don't I think it's wishful thinking for her to post a YouTube video and then say, please don't report on it. Please don't, make videos about it. Considering her line of work, I just think that is an ask. And look, Page Six, all of the news outlets did it too, and you guys might be canceling me for that, but I made the decision to do it. I was like, I have to be okay with people in my comments being like, she didn't want people to make a video, and I'm like, okay, you know what? What would Brianna Chicken Fry do? She would post a video, so that's what I did. From what I've gathered, Zach has a history of ending relationships like this. He was married before, which there's a whole deep lore about that marriage, and I don't know if it's true, so I'm not going to get into it, but they did eventually get divorced. Then last year, he started dating another girl named Deb. I believe that ended in a very similar fashion, and then immediately started dating Brianna. So people are online saying this is kind of par for the course for someone like Zach Bryan. I don't know, because I'm old, and I don't know who these people are. So it's just going to have to be that for today. Who I do know, which actually makes me feel a little bit younger, is Taylor Frankie Paul. Taylor Frankie Paul is back with her ex, Dakota Mortensen. Will Mom Talk survive this? Season 2 loading, because Taylor Frankie Paul and Dakota Mortensen seem to be back together. This weekend, she posted an Instagram story of Dakota with one of her children at what appeared to be a shooting range, and then posted another story and said, due to personal reasons, I'll be back with the same man I said I am done with. People seem to be really surprised by this. I was not surprised by this, because whenever the breakup story came out, I feel like a lot of people took that clickbait headline and ran with it. When you really looked into what she said, she kind of said they were on a break. She was like, we're not fully broken up. We're not fully together. We're trying to work things out. And we all know what that means, right? We all know what that means. We have all been in that relationship. And I've seen people, booing Taylor on social media, throwing tomatoes, not literally, figuratively, at Taylor, being like, how could you get back together with this guy? We've all been there. Look, I'm not going to judge her for that. We've all been in that relationship. Breaking up is harder than just, flip the switch and you're done. Have you ever actually just clean cut broken up with somebody and like never talk to them again. I don't know what that's like. I mean, my claws would be in it for like a year after the breakup, back together, whatever, situationships. So I mean, it is what it is. It was bound to happen. Not only that, in attendance at Dancing with the Stars this week was Jen Affleck and her husband, Zach, who a lot of people also are like, are they separating? Are they getting divorced? He was awful to her on season 1 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but I believe it's going to be the same situation there as it is with Taylor. I don't even think they came out and said that they were like, obviously the show affected their relationship. There's like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But she never came out and said, we're not together. She posted a couple TikToks insinuating, last time we talked to you, you were in a relationship. I was, those types of things. But I think at this point, it's all just for people to talk about them and their show. Last but certainly not least, for the 18th, 100th time, we're going to talk about is Vanderpump Rules Dunzo, finished, terminated. See you later, alligator. Well, it seems like every couple of weeks we have a new theory as to why Vanderpump Rules could officially be over. It has not been picked back up yet. Cameras have not started rolling. Typically it's a summer show. So the fact that we're now into October and there's not even an inkling of word about what's going to happen, I'll save my opinion for the end. But Lala Kent was on Jeff Lewis this week, where she talked about her lack of a relationship with Ariana Madix. They still hate each other. I mean, the way I interpreted it, they still hate each other. There is no relationship, which insinuates there's really no way for this current cast to move forward together and film a new season of Vanderpump Rules, which may be why Lala and Sheena have been actively lurking in the hills and the valleys, the shadows of Janet and Brittany and Michelle for the last couple of months, right? It's like any picture that you see of Janet, Brittany, Michelle, whoever else is on the show, you see like Sheena's little eyeballs popping over their shoulder, like, I'm here too, don't forget, So I feel like we're definitely going to see some cameos from Sheena and Lala on the next season of The Valley. But when Jeff Lewis asked Lala, do you have a relationship with Ariana? She said, no, we don't have one. When he asked about making amends, she said, that will never happen. She said, let's just say there's no more story to tell, right? There's only 2 people to blame for that, and that's Tom Sandoval and Raquel Leviss. Ariana, I will always be a cheerleader for. She was absolutely fantastic on Broadway. I heard, killed it on Love Island. I've never watched this show and certainly didn't start watching it because we were not good. She says, but I have no ill feelings about anybody on the show, Vanderpump Rules. And I think that's what feels for the first time like I just feel peace. And I don't really believe that. I don't really believe that she feels at peace that Vanderpump Rules might be done and dusted. Maybe she feels at peace because she was filming for The Valley, but that check was important to her. I mean, it's the whole reason that her and Ariana had a falling out to begin with. So I just don't buy that 6 months ago, it was like life or death on the show. And now all of a sudden you're at peace with it going away. I personally just am not buying that. I don't blame her for that either. She said, this is how I pay my bills. This is how I feed my child. It's her job. I'm not going to blame her for that. And, when it comes to doing a new season, like, who wouldn't film together? Unfortunately for all of us who are Team Ariana till the day we die, the common denominator is Ariana. Ariana's not going to film with Sandoval. She's probably not going to want to film with Lala. She's probably not really going to want to film with Sheena or be thrilled to be with Schwartz. Katie, I think, would follow in those footsteps. So what do you do? I don't know. But time will tell. I feel like they miss... I don't know. It's easy to say this. I was going to say, I feel like they missed the opportunity to do the spinoff earlier where, it was like season 8, season 9, where things were getting really wonky, where we're like, end Vanderpump Rules, started over with a new cast from SUR, or kind of transition into like a Tom version of Vanderpump Rules where it's a new restaurant, same premise of the show, right? But instead of SUR, it's Tom and Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz kind of take the role of Elisa Vanderpump. They're not the same. I'm just, you get what I'm saying. However, I mean, now knowing what happened with Tom Sandoval, I don't think that would have worked either because people wouldn't have wanted to watch him. But That's where we are. Just raise your glasses high because Vanderpump Rules is probably not coming back, in my opinion. All right, let's get into this week's deep dive. And I have to be completely honest with you. I wish that this was not the deep dive this week. It's been a horrible week for fans of One Direction. It's been a horrible week in pop culture. The tragic and unfortunate passing of Liam Payne. We're going to talk all about it. Of course, this is your trigger warning. We are going to talk about domestic violence and suicide. So, like I said, I wish there was something different to talk about it, but this was without a doubt the biggest story of the week, and that is that Liam Payne, formerly of One Direction, passed away last week at age 31 after falling off of a balcony in Argentina. So I'm just going to kind of answer some questions and then get to, some One Direction stuff, some relationship stuff a little bit later. First, why was he in Argentina? So he had gone to a Niall Horan concert on October 2nd and had stayed. If you don't know anything about One Direction, they were together, for the better half of a decade. They broke up. Everybody tried to go on and have a solo career. Some way more successful, Harry Styles, than others. Not everybody ended up like Harry Styles. But however, each had a hit here and there. There was just a varying level of solo success. Niall also successful. Like I said, he was doing, arena tours, and that's where he met up with Liam on October 2nd. So his girlfriend, Kate Cassidy, was there with him for 2 weeks, but went home shortly before his death because the trip was much longer than had anticipated. So based on reports that's coming out, they were really only supposed to be in Argentina for a couple of days, and then it lasted 2 weeks. From what I have read, Kate was with him up until about 2 or so days before this accident. It all happened very fast. I remember, when the news article came out, it had said, Liam Payne has passed away at age 31 after falling from a balcony just after 5 p.m. And I was reading this at like 6:12. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, like, what's the time difference? How long ago did this happen? But as the news started to come out, it really seemed like we were all learning about this in real time, maybe even with members of his family. It all just happened very, very quickly. And there were tons of questions. And we do, like I said, have some answers now, but there's a lot to unpack. So according to Buenos Aires police, he was under the influence of a powerful hallucinogenic drug known as crystal when he died. The drug, which can cause psychotic episodes and hallucinations, may have contributed to his erratic behavior. There were reports that he was acting erratic in the hotel lobby, that he was smashing his laptop, that he was having verbal altercations with people in the lobby. But there were also, according to early toxicology reports, multiple other drugs in his system. So TMZ says that law enforcement sources say they're focusing on one hotel employee who they suspect might have supplied him with anti-anxiety medications allegedly found in his room. The source adds they want to know if the employee supplied Liam with any of the drugs found in his system. So that's really the scene of what happened that day. Now, there's a lot of backstory as to maybe what could have contributed to a bad mental health state. Now, of course, this isn't something that happens within like a week of time. It had been years. He had been open in the past about struggling with substance abuse. He had done time in rehab. So this didn't just happen in a month. This has been going on for quite some time. But there were a couple of things in his personal life that people are starting to point out. One report from the Daily Mail, which you take with a grain of salt, in my personal opinion, reports that his record label, Universal, had dropped him as an artist just days before the accident. So a source says that he was given a substantial advance, but the label didn't recoup it. His second album was put on hold recently, which we'll talk more about that in a second. But I went back to see, what kind of articles were coming out prior to his death. So these were coming out October 11th, October 12th. Liam Payne's second solo album has reportedly been put completely on pause as the singer deals with personal challenges. He had been working on new music, but his recent single Teardrops failed to make a significant impact, and he has since parted ways with his manager. That came out on October 11th. A source told The Sun Liam had been doing really well on his second album, but now it's completely on pause. Liam is telling people now he has no idea if it will ever be released. This is also following news of some publicized personal issues, including recent allegations from his ex-fiancée, Maya Henry, who claimed that he's been repeatedly contacting her since their breakup had been. Liam and Maya, they had an on-again, off-again relationship. They were at one point engaged. In May of 2022, they split when photos of Liam emerged with his arm around another woman. So at the time, Maya commented on that picture saying, "I love all the fans so much, but please stop sending me these pictures of my fiance wrapped around another woman. This is not me, and it's hard enough knowing this has happened without seeing it enough now." So they broke up. And since then, she wrote a book called Looking Forward. It is a fiction book that is, quote, inspired by true events. The cover says, a model named Mallory falls in love with Oliver, member of a popular boy band called Five Forward that has been assembled after auditions for a TV show called Star Power. Now, obviously, this is very parallel to Liam Payne. We all know that Liam Payne started on the X Factor. He tried out twice. That's how One Direction was formed, right? So inspired by true events. You don't really need to read between the lines with that one. According to the LA Times, towards the end of the book, which was published in April, the character of Mallory returns to a London flat that she shares with Oliver to find him suffering from a drug-fueled mental breakdown. He's screaming and crying and slapping himself in the face. At one point, he threatens to jump off a balcony, saying he's going to kill himself. In Maya Henry's book, the protagonist, Mallory, wraps her arm around Oliver and pulls him inside the flat. But Oliver becomes increasingly agitated, ranting and pacing. He punches a hole in the wall. He curses. Oliver then grabs an axe and swings it, smashing the TV. Oliver raises the axe high in the air, shattering a chandelier. Glass crashes down, cutting Mallory. Also in the book, Oliver is confused, terrified, and then angry. He calls Mallory a whole bunch of names, but then cries and calls her a sweet angel, sobs, and then passes out. So as you can imagine, after Liam Payne's death, there is a wide variety of reaction to Maya Henry's book. Some fans of One Direction started harassing Maya incessantly online, while some fans are coming to her defense, saying that not doing so could set a precedent for others who have survived abuse. So I'm going to leave that there. I share all of that just to kind of give an insight as to what was going on in his world leading up until this moment. I'm going to shift gears a little bit now about Liam Payne potentially, arguably, being a victim of child stardom, of adolescent stardom. He first tried out for the X Factor when he was 14 years old. He got turned away for being too young, came back at 16, and that's when One Direction was born. Nicole Scherzinger, Simon Cowell put this group together, and the rest is history. But he was really the leader of the group. He was the strongest singer. He had the most solos in the group. He had a lot of writing credits. So he was essentially the anchor of One Direction. Now, of course, fans have different interpretations of who was the leader and this and that and who was their favorites. But at the crux of it, Liam was the one that really held everybody together. And you have that for a decade, and you have this pandemonium for a decade, and then it ends. And for a lot of the very formative years of your life, you are living your life running high on adrenaline. Every single night, it's your job to get out in front of tens of thousands of people who are screaming your name, wearing your face on their shirt, every single night, people recognizing you in public. And not that it all completely goes away, but once the band breaks up, that is significantly squandered. And, as a apart from Harry Styles was the huge breakout star of One Direction, right? None of the other solo careers have been as successful as their time in the group. I would argue that Harry Styles is probably of equal success, if not more. I mean, he's won Grammy, so let's say he is of higher success now than he was in the band. But they have had individual success, but in my opinion, none to the caliber of success that they had when they were in One Direction. And some would say that Liam had the hardest time trying to find his footing with his solo career in comparison to Zayn and Niall, Harry, like I said, and Louis. So I think that has to be something that is really difficult to come to grips with, because so much of your identity for a decade has been wrapped up in the success of this group. And then all of that goes away pretty much because of personality conflict issues, right? Not for a lack of talent, not because, nobody was worthy of being these mega stars. And so I think when you have such a high level of success as a group and you are young, and then you try to do it solo and it's not as successful, that has to really do something to you in your brain and your idea of self-worth. And we have heard from family members and close friends that Liam had already had some mental health struggles. So I feel like that certainly doesn't make things any better. I feel like in that type of situation, you turn to things that you never think you would. And one thing leads to another. And this is where we are now. I mean, across the board, I think everybody can agree that it's just a terribly sad situation. All the tributes that came out from, all the boys and Cheryl Cole, who he shares a 7-year-old son with, and from Simon Cowell and from his sister and from his family members. Like, there's no doubt about it that he was loved. And I know I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that you can grieve, this person who was instrumental in your childhood and adolescent life. I mean, some people think that it's weird to mourn the loss of a celebrity. It's this parasocial relationship. But the fact of the matter is, and like, love it or hate it, these singers and these actors and these child stars are very influential to us as children and to teens. And even though we don't know them, like, sometimes when you're a teenager, you feel like you know them. Like, we've all been there. We felt like we were dating the guy. I was always dating Nick Jonas when I was 11 years old. So people can mourn that version of somebody that you knew. I'm using air quotes, that you knew. But yeah, just a really, really sad situation. Keep praying for his family, because I can't imagine, seeing his dad in Argentina is just really, really sad. Sad situation all around, and we will leave it there. For final thoughts, I'm going to switch gears majorly. And how do you do that? I don't know. You just do it. So that's what I'm just going to do. I'm just going to do it. We're going to talk about Love is Blind and the weddings. So, spoiler alert, if you are not finished with the latest episode of Love is Blind, 1 minute, 22 seconds of pure chaos. What's going to happen? Who's going to get married? Going into the final episode, we have 3 couples left. It's Marissa and Ramses, Taylor and Garrett, and Ashley and Tyler. It starts in the middle of a conflict between Marissa and Ramses. We left off on the previous episode in this same place where they're fighting about something, but we don't really know what's going on. And we kind of pick up at that same place. And it's still not really clear until the end of the fight, end of the argument between the two of them. Ramses is just showing signs of cold feet, talking a little bit in circles. And then he just comes out and blurts out and says pretty much that Marissa's too much for him. And this was my final freaking straw with Ramses, to say that Marissa's energy was too much for him. Dude, I mean, let's just go down the list. First of all, you're morally opposed to what she did with her life for a decade. Second, you want to assume that she should have sex with you any time of the day, anytime that you want, even if she's PMSing. Then you assume that, because she doesn't want to take birth control and you don't want to wear condoms, that there's like no way that you can enjoy sex with her. I mean, all in all, Ramses to me just screams immaturity. There is no way that you can have any of these conversations look at them for what they are. And none of it was Frankenbiting. We saw his lips moving and we saw things coming out of his mouth at every single turn. And to me, he's just immature. I mean, first of all, your relationship has to be about more than just sex. 2 months into it, sure, I can understand how it might be a concern. But talk to me in 10 years. And everybody in this room listening to this right now who's been married for 10 years or been with somebody for 10 years, talk to me in 10 years, Ramses, and tell me like what your life is like, because things like that fade. I mean, of course, intimacy with your partner is of the utmost importance to a healthy relationship, but it's not the same as it is in month 2. And that's just a fact of life. So to go through all of those experiences and then to get to the end of it and him just say, oh, your energy is just too much for me. I'm like, Marissa, I wish you would have just clocked him one. I'm like, I don't promote violence, but in case I do, this would be the moment that I do. Just give one of his braids like a little tug. Don't do any damage, but like let him know. And she's heartbroken. She is sobbing hysterically, and she was in it. Like she was in it. She was going to get married. And I think if not now, in time, she will be happy about this. Because when you're in it, I mean, you ignore the red flags so hard, because I feel like in the case of Marissa, she wants this so bad that she's overlooking every single red flag that is flying all over the field. And that's easy to do when you're in it and you have your heart set on something and, your mindset on something, and it's a pressure cooker environment that you're going to get married in 4 weeks. So I feel like really that's where she was, but I hope that she's doing better now. I'm going to assume that she's doing better now that she's a little bit removed. Our first wedding is Tyler and Ashley, and we are all wondering what is going to happen with Tyler and Ashley, especially after this past weekend. We were all super confused what was going on with Tyler and the baby mama drama, right? Like he is portraying to Ashley that he was a sperm donor for 3 children. Well, his baby mama, Bree Thomas, has been on Instagram saying, no, Tyler, that's not necessarily the case. Do you want to tell the truth? Because if you don't tell the truth, I'm going to tell the truth. Well, this weekend, she told the truth. Basically, what she said was that she was married to a woman that she has lived her entire life as a lesbian, right? So when she was married to this woman, Tyler said, I will be your sperm donor to help you two as a couple have a child. That is the oldest child. Well, then Bree and her wife separated. The wife moved back to California. Bree was pretty much on her own. Tyler said, I will step in. I will be a father figure to the sperm donor child. So then Tyler starts living with this girl and they have sex and they have twins out of that. And Bree said, I was really uncomfortable with this at first because Tyler and I were not really in a relationship. We were there for each other emotionally, but I identify as lesbian. So the fact that I, was with this man and now have twins, it's a little confusing for me, right? Well, obviously it's a little bit confusing for Tyler as well. She said, I gave him permission to go on Love is Blind. I wanted him to go on this show, but I didn't think that he would portray the children situation in the way that he did. Two very different sides of the story. And to get married without hearing that side of the story, I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm sure we'll find that out at the reunion. The only little thing that I've seen is Ashley respond to a comment where she didn't entirely defend Tyler, but she pretty much did. She kind of called it slander. She said she called him his castmate because at that time, obviously, they couldn't come out and say we got married. But yeah, wow. Again, a conversation that should have happened in the pods. We even get like this little moment where we're like, is she going to get married to him? Because she says, the only way I won't do it is if something really drastic happens. And for me personally, like this would fall into the drastic category, right? This whole saga would very easily fall into a drastic category. So I thought, oh my gosh, the baby mama's going to show up to this wedding because that's something really drastic, but she didn't. They ended up both saying I do. Question mark on if they're still married. Time will tell. Garrett and Taylor have been the steadiest couple since day one, throughout the whole experience. They get along really well. They resolve conflict in a healthy way. They're both like cute little nerds and they balance each other out. They use their brains. We really did stan Garrett and Taylor throughout the whole experience. But on the wedding day, Garrett's parents are still really apprehensive and they're being supportive, but they're also like letting him know. His mom is sitting there crying, like, I'm not going to try to, tell you what to do, but like, it'll be okay if you decide not to, and we'll love you. And this seems really odd for you to do. And I'm just like, oh, maybe this is going to sway his decision, because the mom specifically really did not seem like she was on board with this. And I get it. That's a mom being a mom. She's going to probably have that reaction if you get married to somebody that you dated in a pod and have known for 2 months. But I just think it's really interesting to look at this season and see the two people who are the most logical, right? Who really think things through. They're scientists, and more than any other couple, they're just really intentional and really thoughtful. Decide to take this huge leap and gamble at the end of it all and get married. But that's why I have hope that they will make it and that they do make it, because I feel like they're not two irrational people, which the season has been filled with irrational people. Definitely the best couple of the season, in my opinion. And everybody was talking about Garrett's glow up, where like there is a wifey behind that glow up, because if you look at him on the show and you look at him now, it's like, who is this GQ model? Taylor, you did a great job with the Garrett glow up, and we're very happy about your weddings. All right, you guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of MPT. Don't forget bonus episodes on the Patreon today and Friday. We have Survivor recaps. We have our Bravo Friday news. So make sure you're subscribed to the Patreon. The link is in the show notes below. Leave a little review-daloo. That's new. I've never said that before, but I kind of like it. It has a ring to it. A little review-daloo, a little 5-star boop boop, a little love you like a sis. It helps the show every single time you do. So if you haven't done so yet, please do it. If not, I'll see you back next week. And as always, love you like a sis. Bye.